You have something special. You have greatness in you. This is Les Brown. I want to talk to you about fighting for the life that you want. And that's something that we're looking at with admiration with the people in Ukraine. These people are fighting. And it's really like David and Goliath. He had five stones, but he only used one. And I think that was the stone of determination, the stone of faith, the stone of perseverance. When you think about where things are there's several things that come up for me here that we have a similar situation right here in the United States. You know, we're dealing with police departments who, for the most part, they are serving people. They serve and protect the dominant culture, but people of color, they terrorize and murder. It's a whole different thing. And there was something I remember by Claude McKay. Where is that paper? I saw something by Claude McKay, and it reminded me of these powerful words by Claude McKay. It was something that Claude McKay did. He was a poet from Jamaica, went to New York, and it was a piece that Claude McKay did called If We Must Die. I want to find that piece because it speaks to where if you want to have something in life, you got to be willing to go to the left for it. You got to be willing to fight for it. Frederick Douglass said something that I love very much. He said, power concedes nothing without a demand. People that dominate you and that control you, they're not just going to give that up and walk away. No, you got to fight, and you've got to be willing to fight to the death in order to get the things that you want. Give me the Claude McKay piece that we were talking about earlier. And so when you look at where you are, anything that has any value that you want to create in your life, it's something else. Frederick Douglass said, he said, we might not get everything we fight for, but everything we get, there will be a fight. So when you think about your life in and out of the pandemic, and that there are forces, white supremacists, that infiltrate the majority of police stations and operations in the country, that we have to be willing to fight for what we want. And people trying to turn back the hands of time, trying to deny us the opportunity to vote, working relentlessly to deny marginalized people opportunities in an unequal environment. It's a continuous fight. And so I want to focus on something about this. This is symbolic. One, the recklessness of Putin, that there are people in life, short-term thinking, driven by ego, that think that they can just bully and pounce on people and think that everybody will stand by and watch. Something that one rabbi said that I love very much. He said, when something happens, three things are going on. One, there's the perpetrator, and they're the victims, and they're the witnesses. And the question is, who's the worst? And the answer is the witnesses. People who stand by and do nothing. People who stand by and say nothing. And one of the great things about what's going on now in this country and around the world, that people have awakened. I remember the demonstrations, and I found it hard-worthy when George Floyd was murdered by a cop, and the cops that were with the murderer, they stood back and they watched. At any point in time, they could have intervened and said, come on, it's four of us and one of him. He's handcuffed, he's down, and we're on top of him. But they didn't do that because they don't recognize your humanity. When you're in a country that does not recognize your humanity, and that most certainly is in America, then it's a different kind of environment. When you come from home, you are terrorized. You face when you're driving, that you're in an environment where you're going to be terrorized or murdered by those who are sworn to protect and to serve. And so when you have goals and dreams that you want to achieve, there are systems that are put in place to deny you, to destroy your sense of self, and to demonize you. And the way that you overcome that, you got to fight. I'm encouraged. I'm inspired by what's taking place in the Ukraine. That those Ukrainians have said, no, this is not the life that we want. We want the life that we are now experiencing. We don't want someone to control our destiny. That's powerful. That's encouraging. God is in the midst of all this stuff as we watch, as we observe. And I'm saying to you, as you look at yourself, look at your goals, it's that everything you want to do, if it's changing your life, if it's having your own business, if it's bouncing back from a setback, and many people have experienced that. Many people have lost their businesses, have gone through foreclosure, gone through evictions. Many people, their businesses have gone under, but something that Willie Jolly said, that a setback, come on, Willie, a setback is a setup for a comeback. You got comeback power. And when you know that, I remember when I was on the ropes dealing with fourth stage cancer, that those words stayed in my mind. I remember the words of Bob Proctor, who just passed a couple of weeks ago, that Bob talked about your mindset and your willingness to do what's required to move your life forward to achieve the things that you want to achieve. It's going to take everything in you. A.L. Williams said, all you can do is all you can do, and all you can do is enough, but make sure you do all you can do. And since Bob Proctor's transition, I've been reflecting on my own life, because we all have an expiration date. And I ask myself constantly, if you had your life to live over again, Les, could you have done more than what you have done thus far? And the truth is, yes. I'm ashamed. I could have done more. And I'm still here. I still got some time. I can still speak. I can still make a difference. Somebody said, why don't you do something other than just speak? To do something where you can have some fun. I said, are you kidding me? I have fun speaking. Are you kidding me? I have a ball changing lives. I want you to think about this. Live your life in the way that you want to live your life. When it's time for me to go, I will still be speaking. Come on, somebody. Well, oh, behave. Yes. And I have a lot of fun. We did some training in Orlando, and I was masked up. I got a plastic mask. I got all kind of masks up in here. Let me tell you something. Nobody's hooked up more than me. And we had a ball. I got, I got masks. See here, homemade playing. Where's my plastic mask? I got everything up in here. When I came in there, they said. They said, what was that guy's name? I forgot. The Silence of the Lambs. I got everything up in here. Yeah, where's my plastic mask? Hey, Maui. Oh, here it is. I got everything, honey. Look here. This is how I'm going to the airport today. I'm going back to Atlanta. So this is what I'm doing. I don't even fly anymore. But I had to come to do my seminar. So this is what I got going. Okay. All right. Okay. So then, in addition to this, I got everything, baby. You want that movie called The Silence of the Lambs?
That's
So look here. If a dog sneezes around me, I'll get up and run. But let me tell you something. So I'm masked up. Do you hear me, homie, Flair? Listen to this. This is by Claude McKay. This is a bad boy. He's a bad brother. This is not the front of it. If we must die, where's that? No, no, no. Oh, this is the small print up to the top. All right. Listen to this. If we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and pinned in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at our accused lot. Winston Churchill, he loved this. He said, if we must die, oh, let us nobly die, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. O kinsmen, we must meet the common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave, and for their 1,000 blows deal one death blow. What though before us lies the open grave? Like men, we'll fight the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying, but fighting back. Come on, somebody. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I mean, when you look at that, they got people, senior citizens like me, making Molotov cocktails. Am I right?
Yeah, they have a factory.
They have a factory doing it in their garages. Everybody. I mean, there are men who've taken their families, the women, across the border, and then they come back to fight for the life that they want. And there are people sitting around just watching. Let me share something with you. Life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you you don't want will automatically take over. Had they not been willing to fight? And trust me, the people who are watching, they admire them and say, wait a minute. These people are fighting. They're not just letting Putin with his crazy self just come in and take over the country because he wanted to. They're putting up a fight. The people are standing in front of tanks. Say, no, you're going to run me over? Do what you need to do. But we're going to fight you. And then those Russian troops, many of them don't even know why they're there. Some of them say they've been driving around to run out of gas because they don't want to fight these Ukrainians. They were lied to. And so when you think about this place, what we're watching at this time, as if the pandemic wasn't enough, now this madness. And you better believe, even though it's thousands of miles away, it's affecting our collective consciousness. What happens to any of us happens to all of us, even though it's thousands of miles away. Oh boy, no man is an island, no man stands alone. When you think about where we are in this point in time, I'm encouraging all of you for your prayers and support of the Ukrainian people, and for us to reflect on our own lives and our own battles that we have here. We have our own stuff here. The police departments are being run and controlled by white supremacists. We got our own stuff here. And I say to you that when they know that we mean business, that you're not going to just continue to terrorize us and murder us and get away with it like you've been doing for centuries, trust me on this. They're going to begin to respect us, saying, no, they're not being pushed around and look past, and they are willing to stand up for each other. That's that. And they fear if the Ukraine joins NATO, and that's the message I want to talk to you about right now. They fear Russia don't want the Ukrainians to join NATO. Why? Because if you attack any of us, you attack all of us. And there's a message in that this is a time that you want to develop a mindset of liberation, a mindset of determination, and you want to develop your skill set, learning all that you can. And because if you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. But if you're willing to learn, no one can stop you. But the other piece that's major is developing strategic relationship alliances. That's why I'm talking to you now. They don't want them to join NATO because if you affect and impact or attack anybody in NATO, you got to fight all of them. And he doesn't want to see that happen. He doesn't want them to do that. And when we come together around our values, come together with a determination to stand up for a better future for our children, when we develop strategic alliances, communities of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships, there's some power in that. Because you can't make it by yourself in this thing called life. There could always be some battles. There's some evil people in this world. And I don't have to tell you that. You know that. And you have to protect yourself from them. I remember when I was working at WVKO radio station in Columbus, Ohio, and Eddie Saunders, who was the assistant program, no, he was the program director for a long time. And Eddie was the vice general of the radio station. And he used to box, and Eddie was in his 70s and I was in my 20s. And I said, Eddie, I heard you used to box. He said, yes. I said, you know what? I think I'll just run over there and slap you side the head, see what you do. He said, come on. He said, you might run over here, but you will limp back. I said, okay, Eddie. Eddie Sanders said, I ain't scared of you. You run over here, you gonna limp back, young man. You know, young broom sweep clean, but old broom nowhere to go. So this is a historic time. I'm watching this. I'm pulling for the Ukrainians. And you know, the Orange Man and all his munions and these, you know, these spineless people today, they should write a book called Profiles in Cowardice. I remember a book was written called Profiles in Courage. But we're living in a time we got politicians talking out both sides of their neck because they're afraid of the Orange Man. And I've said to you, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power and of love and of sound mind. You have something special. You have greatness in you. Look around at the people in your life. Who is it that you need to build a deeper relationship with? And who is it that you need to walk away from those relationships? Why? Because they're not good for you. They bring no value in your life. I'm cleaning house. You hear me? I'm cleaning house because I found myself giving more in a relationship and they brought zero. There are people who are always there when they need you, but when you need them, you can't find them. And you have to ask yourself the question, in these places where we are right now, you got to ask the question, who should I count on? And who should I count out? Who should I count on and who should I count out? And as you look at yourself, look at your goals and look at your dreams, you want to watch people, give them 90 days to prove who they are. Watch and observe them. Don't just take any and everybody in. Something Jim Rohn said, he said, you look your life and he said, it's either a warning or an example. A warning of what not to do or an example of what to do. Even when this is over, Orange Man's boyfriend, Putin, he has now jacked himself up. He's in a corner right now. And he had short thinking and said, you know what? I had no idea what I was doing, what I did then. Now he's thinking about how can I save face? But see, there's some kind of damage that you can do that won't be forgotten. Even if they stop right now, people are not going to forget this. No, he's going to be paying for this until he takes his last breath and the people who supported him in that. So it's very important. Do unto others as you will have others to do unto you. Go, Ukrainians, go, go, go. That's what I'm talking about. You have something special. You have greatness in you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Bye for now. No, they gonna win. They will snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. The world is standing with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, waking up on Monday morning, already feeling behind, drowning in to-dos, and reacting to whatever comes your way. Now picture the opposite. Stepping into your week with clarity, confidence, and control, knowing exactly what matters most and how you're going to get it done. That's the power of planning your week, and yet so few people do it. Most drift through their days, busy but not productive, overwhelmed but not intentional. But here's the truth. If you don't plan your week will plan you. Distractions, demands, and other people's priorities will fill your time, leaving you exhausted and unfulfilled. If you want to achieve big goals, stay focused, and actually feel progress, weekly planning isn't optional, it's essential. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why. Let me ask you a simple question. When does your week truly begin? Is it Monday morning when the alarm rings, or is it Sunday night with a pen in hand, a quiet space, and a written plan? The average person starts their week by chance, but the successful person begins with intention. They don't wake up hoping the week goes well. They wake up already knowing what needs to be done. Here's the reality. If you don't control your week, the week will control you. Life has a way of filling your schedule with other people's priorities if you don't fill it with your own. Planning your week isn't just a productivity tip. It's a discipline, a commitment. It's declaring, I refuse to let 7 days pass by without purpose. Because let's face it, your dreams are too important to leave to chance. Your goals are too valuable to rely on memory. And time is not unlimited. Start treating your time like the precious resource it is. Stay with me because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why planning your week is one of the most powerful success habits you can develop. Once you master it, you won't just accomplish more, you'll become more. Time is the most valuable investment you have. Here's a bold statement for you, and I want you to really think about it. Time is more valuable than money. I know this might sound surprising at first, but let me say it again. Time is more valuable than money. Why? Because you can always make more money, but you can never make more time. Time is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter if you're wealthy or not, educated or not, living in a mansion or a small apartment. We all get 24 hours in a day. That's the deal. So the question is, what are you doing with yours? When you spend money, you can sometimes earn it back. But when you spend time, it's gone forever. If you don't learn to value your time, life will quietly pass you by as you fill it with things that don't truly matter. Let me give you a simple formula for success. Don't just spend your time, start investing it. What does that mean? It means using your time in ways that bring a return. You go to the gym, that's an investment in your health. You read a good book, that's an investment in your mind. You sit down on Sunday night to plan your week, that's an investment in your productivity, your discipline, your peace of mind. And those small investments, they add up little by little, day by day. They begin building their future, and eventually you'll look back and say, I'm glad I was intentional. I'm glad I made wise choices. But the opposite is true too. Time wasted is opportunity lost. Scroll long enough, sleep in often enough, avoid decisions long enough, and before you know it, 5 years will have passed with the same goals, the same dreams, and the same regret. The price? Time, and you can never get it back. Here's an important idea to write down. Your calendar is a reflection of your values. Want to know what someone truly cares about? Don't ask them, just look at how they use their time. If you say family matters, but haven't had dinner together in a month, there's a disconnect. If you say growth matters, but haven't made time for reading, learning, or planning, something's out of balance. It's not just about working harder. It's about working smarter with the time you've been given. Let's dive deeper. When you plan your week, you're not just filling in a calendar, you're placing value on your life. You're saying these hours matter. This life matters. What I do this week counts. And here's the reality. Most people don't run out of time because they're too busy. They run out of time because they never planned it. They wake up on Monday with good intentions, and by Friday, they're wondering where the week went. Does that sound familiar? Let me challenge you. Don't let your week be a mystery. Make it a masterpiece. Plan your calls. Schedule your workouts. Block time for thinking, reading, resting, and learning. Write down your goals and action steps. Protect your mornings, control your evenings, and don't give your best hours to your worst distractions. Why? Because every week you waste is a piece of your life that you'll never get back. And no one plans to waste time. They just don't plan not to. So what's the solution? Be a good steward of your time. Honor it, guard it, use it like a millionaire treats their investment portfolio, with precision, discipline, and purpose. When you begin treating your time like it's worth gold, life will begin to reward you like never before. Let me leave you with this final thought. You are the CEO of your own 168-hour week. That's what you get, 168 hours, no more, no less. What you do with those hours will determine your future. Success, growth, peace, energy, progress, they're all hidden inside your calendar. So take out your planner, grab a pen, and decide right now to invest your time like your life depends on it, because it does. If you don't run the week will run you. Now, let's be clear. Every week has a plan. The question is it your plan or someone else's? Because if you don't sit down, if you don't set the pace, if you don't map out the mission, life will do it for you. And let me warn you, life's default plan is chaos. We live in a world full of noise, notifications, distractions, to-dos, and interruptions. Everyone wants a piece of your time. Your phone wants your morning. Your inbox wants your focus. The world wants your attention. And if you're not careful, you'll give it all away. Let me say something that might sting a little. If your week always feels out of control, it's probably because no one's driving. My friend, you were never meant to be a passenger in your own life. You were meant to grab the wheel. Here's a rule I live by. Don't start the week until it's finished. On paper, that means before Monday ever arrives, I already know what matters. My schedule isn't a surprise. My goals aren't a guess. My time is spoken for because I planned it that way. But most people, they start the week with hope. I hope I get to the gym. I hope I find time to work on that project. I hope things slow down so I can catch up. Hope is not a strategy. While hope is powerful, it needs a plan. Because here's what happens when you don't plan your week. The urgent always wins over the important. The small distractions burn up your big goals. Your calendar fills up with meetings, errands, and mindless tasks, while your dreams get pushed off to someday. Let me give you a word, intentionality. That's the key, because life doesn't care how talented you are. It rewards those who are intentional, those who decide before the noise begins how they want to live. Think of it like this. Would you build a house without a blueprint? Of course not. You wouldn't leave it up to chance, the weather or the workers' whims. You'd measure, you'd plan, you design, because it's your house. Your week is your house. Your time is the foundation. And if you don't build it on purpose, it will collapse under pressure. Now here's a challenge I want you to take seriously. Don't run your week like a passenger. Leaders don't wait, they don't react. First, when you run your week, you decide your priorities. You don't leave them to chance, you block time for what matters. You say yes to growth and no to guilt. You move from survival mode to strategy. Listen to me, life doesn't slow down. There's no pause button. You'll never find time. You've got to make it. And that only happens when you sit down, calm, focused, and intentional, and run the week before it runs you. Here's a simple exercise for you. I call it the Sunday night strategy session. It's not complicated and it's not fancy. It's just this. Before the new week begins, take 30 minutes. Sit down with your planner, ask yourself what matters this week, then write it down, schedule it, own it. That small habit, it's a game changer. Because when you run the week, your confidence grows, your focus sharpens, and you show up with intention, not just inertia. People ask me all the time, how do you stay motivated all week? And I say simple, don't leave your life to momentum, give it direction. The best direction you can give it starts with a plan. Let me leave you with this. You either manage your week or the week manages you. You either lead or follow someone else's priorities. You either create the plan or become part of someone else's. The choice is always yours. So choose to lead, choose to plan, choose to run the week before it runs away with your time, energy, and life. Your goals live or die in the weekly plan. Now let's talk about goals. Those big dreams, those lofty ambitions, the things you write in a journal or say out loud at the start of the year. Let me tell you something I've learned from watching people chase success for decades. It's not the goal that determines your future. It's whether or not you plan the steps to get there, week by week. Anyone can write down a goal. I want to get fit. I want to write a book. I want to double my income. Beautiful ideas. But here's the hard truth. Goals without a plan are just wishes, and wishes don't get rewarded. Plans do. Most people make the mistake of setting goals once a year, then hoping life will somehow organize itself around them. But let me ask you, what does your goal have to do with this week? If it's not in this week's plan, it's not real. It's just sitting there collecting dust on the shelf of someday. Here's what I believe with all my heart. Your dreams must find their way into your weekly routine, or they'll never see the light of day. Let me give you an example. You say, I want to lose 20 pounds. Great. Now show me, what day are you working out this week? What time? What are you eating on Thursday? What's your strategy when cravings hit on Saturday night? You see, when a goal is broken into a weekly plan, it becomes a commitment. Until then, it's just an idea floating in your head, hoping to survive the chaos of everyday life. Here's a key lesson. The weekly plan is where vision becomes action. The big dream, that's the what. But the weekly plan, that's the how. It's how you grow your business. It means scheduling calls on Monday, follow-ups on Wednesday, content creation on Friday. It means blocking time and assigning tasks. It means no more guessing, just doing. Without a weekly plan, goals stay blurry. They feel overwhelming and haunt you instead of helping you. But with a clear weekly plan, you wake up with direction, you can measure your progress, and build momentum. Let me tell you, momentum is magical. You don't need to do everything today, you just need to do what matters most this week. When you do that, week after week, you build results, you build belief, and soon the person who once hoped for a goal becomes a person who lives it. Let me give you something practical. The goal to action transfer. It's simple. On Sunday night, take 5 minutes to look at your top 3 goals. Then ask yourself, what specific action can I take this week to move closer to this? Put that action in your calendar, not your to-do list, your calendar. Because if it doesn't get scheduled, it won't get done. And don't try to do 10 things. Pick 1 or 2 needle movers, do them well, and then celebrate the progress. Success doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right things consistently. Let me say that again. Success isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. And weekly planning is what keeps you consistent. I've met people who've had the same goal for 5 years. They talk about it, they dream about it, but they never translate it into weekly action. And I'll tell them gently, your goal didn't fail you, you just didn't give it a chance to live. Because goals don't survive in the clouds, they thrive in the dirt, in the daily grind, in the decision to make time, take action, and follow through. So here's the challenge this week. Don't just hope, plan. Don't just dream, schedule the steps. Don't wait for the perfect week, because that week isn't coming. Use this week right now, as imperfect as it may be, because this week is the soil, and if you plant your goals here, they'll start to grow. I'll leave you with this thought. Your goals don't need more motivation. They need a map. And that map starts with your weekly plan. Planning creates clarity, and clarity fuels confidence. Let me begin with a principle that can change your entire week. Clarity is power, and planning is how you get it. You see, most people don't lack intelligence, ideas, or ambition. What they lack is clarity. They wake up in the morning with fog in their minds. They start the week unsure, distracted, pulled in 10 different directions. They don't know what matters most, so everything feels urgent. And when everything feels urgent, nothing gets done. Here's the key. Clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from planning better. You don't need to wait for inspiration to strike. What you need is to sit down, take a deep breath, and put your plan on paper. A written plan, no matter how simple, clears the fog. It says, this is what I'm doing, this is when I'm doing it, and this is why it matters. Suddenly, you've gone from confusion to direction, from stress to structure, from guessing to knowing. And that shift, that clarity doesn't just make you more productive. It makes you more confident. Confidence doesn't come from hype, loud music, or motivational quotes. It comes from knowing where you're going and what you're doing next. Let me give you an example. Picture 2 people starting their Monday. One person has a plan. They block their time. They've listed their top 3 priorities. They know when they'll work, when they'll rest, and what needs to move the needle. The other, they've got a vague idea, a mental list, a calendar full of empty spaces, and a mind full of noise. Now, tell me, who walks into the day with confidence? Who handles distractions better? Who stays calm under pressure? It's not even close. You see, when you've got clarity, the world feels less threatening. Your day feels less chaotic, and your mind becomes your ally, not your enemy. But here's the catch. Clarity doesn't just show up on its own. You've got to chase it. You've got to create it, and you create it through planning. That's why I say, don't just carry your goals in your head. Put them on paper where they can go to work. Don't trust your memory. Trust your schedule. Don't try to juggle it all. Structure it all. Now, here's something important. Planning isn't about being rigid. It's about being ready. It's not about predicting every minute. It's about deciding what matters before the noise begins. Because if you wait until the world wakes up, until the emails roll in and the problems start, you're already behind. The chaos has already begun to write your story. But if you take just 30 minutes on a Sunday night to ask yourself, what matters this week? What am I building? Where does my energy need to go? Then suddenly you're in charge again. And when you're in charge, you walk taller, you speak clearer, and you move with intention. Because clarity fuels confidence. And confidence is what gets things done. Let me leave you with this final thought. Some people say they don't plan because they don't feel confident. They think, I'll wait until I'm more sure of myself. But that's backwards. You don't wait for confidence to plan. You plan so confidence can show up. Start small, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Write out the day, write out the week, block a few hours. Pick your top 3 priorities. Even a rough draft is better than no draft. Once you see it in front of you, you'll feel it. That surge of clarity, that sense of purpose, that quiet confidence that says, I've got this. Because now you're not just reacting to the world, you're directing your life. So I say to you, don't wander into your week blind. Walk into it with clarity. Build your confidence one plan at a time. And when others are stumbling through the fog, you'll be moving forward with power. Why? Because you took the time to plan. And planning, my friend, is how you lead your life before life tries to lead you. Weekly planning reveals priorities and protects them. Now, let's talk about priorities. Here's a truth I want you to never forget. Everything in life may feel important, but not everything is. That's the trap. That's what steals your time. That's what keeps you busy but not productive. You see, the real danger isn't doing the wrong thing. The real danger is doing the second right thing over and over until the first right thing disappears from your life. That's why weekly planning isn't just about organizing tasks. It's about organizing your values. It's not just what goes on your calendar, it's what gets protected on your calendar. Because when you plan your week, you're not just asking, what do I have to do? You're asking what matters most. And that's where the power lies. That's when you stop living in reaction mode and start living by design. Let me give you a simple idea that changed my life. If it's not scheduled, it's not real. You say your health is a priority? Good. Show me what time you're working out this week. You say your family's a priority? Great. Show me when's the next dinner, the next outing, the next conversation with no phone in your hand. You say your goal matters? Excellent. Show me where's the time block. Where's the focused hour? You see, the problem isn't that we don't care. The problem is that we don't plan like we care. And what's not protected gets replaced. Replaced by emergencies, replaced by distractions, replaced by other people's agendas. Let me tell you this, the world has plenty of plans for your time. So what do? We plan the week with priority in mind. That means before the week begins, you ask yourself, what's most important to me right now? Not everything, not someday, this week. And then you make space for it. You block the time, you close the door, you silence the phone. You treat that block of time like a board meeting with your future. Now, here's something else. Planning not only reveals your priorities, it protects them. Because once it's written down, once it's in your calendar, it becomes visible. And when something is visible, you can fight for it. You're no longer winging it. You're not making decisions based on energy or mood. You're making them based on what you already decided matters. That's discipline. That's maturity. That's the habit that separates the successful from the overwhelmed. Let me tell you this. Every yes you give has a cost. And the most successful people in the world, they're not afraid to say no because they've already said yes to what matters. They don't feel guilty turning something down because they're already committed to something higher. That's what planning does for you. It gives your life structure. It gives your schedule teeth. It gives your calendar a backbone. You don't get pushed around by requests. You don't get lost in chaos. You don't get swept away by urgency. Now you lead the week because your priorities are already on the board. Now let me ask you something. Do your actions reflect your true values, or do they reflect what was loudest and most demanding? That's the hard question. But it's the one that sets you free. Because the moment you start scheduling your values, that's when your life begins to change. So here's what I recommend. Each Sunday night, review your goals. Write down your top 3 priorities for the week. Then block time for them. Not just a to-do list, a time slot. Treat that block like it's sacred. And when life tries to take it, fight for it, defend it, own it. Because those blocks of time, they're not just calendar entries. They're the building blocks of your future. Let me close with this. Your priorities won't happen by accident. They happen by appointment. And every time you sit down to plan your week, you make those appointments with the life you truly want to live. So I say, be bold, be clear, plan like your future depends on it. Because in many ways, my friend, it does. The week is the laboratory for testing and tweaking. Let me give you a new way to think about your week. It's not just a calendar full of appointments. It's not just a set of routines or responsibilities. No, your week is a laboratory. It's a test kitchen. It's your personal workshop where you experiment, evaluate, and evolve. Success doesn't happen all at once. It happens by testing what works and tweaking what doesn't. So the best place to do that, right inside the rhythm of your week. Now let me tell you something that should lift the pressure off your shoulders. Your plan doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be active. You don't have to get it right every time, but you do have to keep showing up. Keep adjusting, keep learning. You see, that's the beauty of a well-planned week. It gives you feedback, and feedback is the foundation of improvement. Try a new morning routine. By Friday, you'll know if it's working. Start blocking time for deep work. By Wednesday, you'll feel the difference or the resistance. Add more margin for rest, reading, or exercise. You'll see if you're more energized or still overwhelmed. But none of that happens if you don't plan it, if you don't track it, if you don't treat the week as a living, breathing tool for progress. Here's what I teach. Each week is a test. Each result is a teacher. Each plan is a draft. So don't be afraid to edit. You don't have to marry your plan. You just have to commit to the process of refining it. And every time you make a small adjustment, wake up 30 minutes earlier, reduce screen time, prep your meals, limit meetings, shift your gym days, you're learning something about yourself. You're becoming more aware. You're becoming more effective. That's what smart people do. They don't just power through. They pause, they observe, they ask what worked and what didn't. Let me tell you, winners reflect, and weekly planning gives them a space to reflect consistently. Because the goal of planning isn't control, it's clarity. It's about creating a framework that's flexible enough to grow with you, but structured enough to keep you focused. Think of it like this. The week is your field of play. It's where you call the plays, run the drills, and review the game film. It's where you measure how the habits are forming, how the energy is flowing, and how the results are stacking. You try, you observe, you adjust. Then you try again, just a little better this time. And this is key. Don't judge the week, study it. Most people either ignore their week or feel guilty about it, but neither approach helps. What helps is learning. Why? Too tired? Poor sleep? No schedule? You didn't get the writing done? Why? Too many distractions? Unclear goals? Not blocked in? That's the gold. That's the insight that turns frustration into progress. Because, listen, success doesn't go to the person who never messes up. It goes to the person who learns faster, the one who adjusts with intention, the one who treats the week like a living tool, not a fixed routine. Now, let me give you something simple. I call it the Friday Five. Every Friday, take 5 minutes and ask these 5 questions. What worked well this week? what didn't go as planned, what drained my energy, what moved me forward, what will I do differently next week. That's it. 5 questions, 5 minutes. But over time, those small tweaks become major breakthroughs. You adjust your morning, you cut a time waster, you find a new rhythm, you say no more often, you protect your energy, you get sharper, stronger, more aligned, and one day you'll look back and say, I didn't just survive my weeks, I mastered them. Because you tested, you tweaked, and you trusted the process. So let me leave you with this. You don't need a perfect plan, you need a plan you're willing to improve. And every week is your chance to do exactly that. So treat this week like a laboratory. Run the experiment, study the results, then come back next week just 1% better. Because that, my friend, that's how greatness is built. Planning your week trains the discipline muscle. Let me tell you something that's not flashy, but it's foundational. Discipline is a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows when you train it. And one of the best workouts for that muscle, planning your week. You see, success doesn't begin when you feel motivated. It begins when you feel responsible. Not for the whole year, not even for the whole month, but for this week. That's where discipline lives, right inside the 7 days in front of you. And every time you sit down, take out your planner, and schedule your intentions, you're not just planning, you're training. Now listen carefully. The act of planning is the first step toward the act of following through. Because when you write it down, when you block the time, when you say this gets done, you're exercising control over your life. And control is the seed of confidence. Most people, they wait until they feel like it. Creating momentum, gaining clarity, and feeling in control can all start within a week. A week is long enough to make significant progress, yet short enough to maintain focus. You don't need to worry about the long term. Just tackle the next 7 days with purpose. Here's a key insight. Many people overestimate what they can achieve in a single day, but they often underestimate what they can accomplish in a well-structured week. When you plan your week, you take control. You set the rhythm, choose the pace, and determine where your energy goes. When you finish the week strong, when you hit your top priorities, honor your commitments, and follow through with discipline, you build belief in yourself. This belief carries over into the next week, and soon you start stacking successes. That's the secret. Success thrives on rhythm, and rhythm begins with weekly execution. Let's make this practical. If you want to win the month, it starts with a simple process every Sunday evening. Sit down with one goal in mind, plan a week you can actually win. Not a fantasy week, but a real, focused, purposeful one. Ask yourself, what are my top 3 priorities? What must move forward? What distractions do I need to avoid? Consider what habits you need to repeat. Write it down, schedule it, and commit to it. Because here's the truth. If you don't plan to win the week, the world will plan to waste it. Distractions are everywhere. Notifications, emails, requests. If you don't set the tone, life will set it for you. But when you take charge, when you lead your week, you start seeing results. 1 week of clean eating, and your body starts to change. 1 week of showing up early, and your mindset shifts. 1 week of working on your dream, and you feel alive again. And here's the most powerful part. It doesn't require perfection, just consistency. Let me say that again. You don't need perfect weeks to succeed in the month, just intentional ones. Weeks where you showed up, followed through, learned, adjusted, and improved. That's how success becomes sustainable. That's how transformation becomes your new normal. You don't need a miracle in 30 days. You need a plan for 7, and then repeat. Let me explain why this matters. Winning the week shifts your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's simply trying and start seeing yourself as someone who is becoming. You stop hoping and start executing. And when you experience that shift, the month takes care of itself. Goals come closer, overwhelm fades, and results appear faster than you imagine. So here's your takeaway. Don't chase the month. Master the week, do it with purpose, structure, and watch how quickly your life changes. Because if you can win this week, you can win the next and the next. Before long, you're not just living the life you planned, you're living the life you earned. Planning prevents burnout and maximizes energy. Here's a truth many miss. Burnout doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing too much of the wrong things or doing it all without a plan. Burnout isn't caused by effort alone. It's the result of chaos, being pulled in every direction, juggling tasks with no priority, and running all day without truly accomplishing anything. That's the silent killer. Disorder, not work. If your week is chaotic, unstructured, and reactive, you're not just wasting time. You're draining your energy. And energy is everything. But here's the good news. Planning is your antidote to burnout. It's your guard at the gate, protecting your energy. When you plan your week with intention, you make a powerful decision. You choose ahead of time where your energy will be invested, and just as importantly, where it won't. You build in focus. You build in rest. You create your rhythm, and rhythm brings relief. Instead of waking up overwhelmed, you wake up prepared. Instead of holding everything in your mind, you place it in your plan. Now pay close attention. Your body wasn't designed for constant urgency, and your mind wasn't built for endless noise. If you don't create space, set boundaries, and carve out time for renewal, life will wear you down before your purpose ever takes root. That's why planning isn't just about productivity, it's about preservation. It's how you protect the best parts of yourself, your creativity, your clarity, your spirit. When your schedule is packed with obligations but lacking essentials like rest and joy, your soul starts to push back. You wake up exhausted. You go to bed unsettled. You lose interest in the things you once loved. That's not laziness. It's a sign of misalignment. But when you sit down at the start of the week and design it wisely, you feel the shift. You declare, this time is for work. This time is for me. This time is for family. This time is for rest. And suddenly, peace returns, focus returns, energy returns. Let's be clear, planning your week doesn't mean cramming it full. It means giving each part of your life the space it needs. You're not just scheduling tasks, you're scheduling rest. You're not just making time for hustle, you're making time for healing. You block out walks, breaks, even quiet moments. Why? Because energy is something to manage, not a fire to burn until it's gone. Here's a truth few acknowledge. Burnout isn't a badge of honor. Balance is. And balance doesn't happen by accident, it happens by design. So here's what I recommend. Every Sunday night when you plan your week, don't just ask, what do I need to get done? Ask, what do I need to protect? Build buffers between meetings. Block an hour just for thinking. Plan at least one evening with nothing scheduled. Guard your mornings like treasure. Schedule joy. Yes, joy. Even fun must be intentional when life is busy. Because let me tell you, a burned out version of you isn't productive. A scattered mind isn't strategic. A tired mind can't create, connect, or lead, but a rested, prepared, and planned you, that's a force to be reckoned with. So I leave you with this. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And the best way to do that, plan your week with margin, meaning, and mass. When you protect your energy, you protect your creativity, your relationships, and ultimately your mission. Plan to protect, plan to renew, plan to endure. Sunday night, the most important meeting of the week. Let me tell you about it. It doesn't happen in a boardroom. It doesn't require a team. It doesn't need a fancy agenda. It happens on Sunday night. Just you, your thoughts, your calendar, and your future. You see, Sunday night isn't the end of the weekend. It's the launch pad for the week ahead. It's your opportunity to get ahead before the demands of the world catch up with you. That's why I call it what it really is, the most important meeting of the week. Why? Because it's the one meeting where you set the agenda. The one time you decide what truly matters. The one chance to reclaim your time before the noise of the week tries to steal it. Most people stumble into Monday in a fog, rushing, reacting, scrambling through emails, demands, and expectations with no clarity, no direction, just movement without meaning. But the achievers, they step into Monday with intention because they've already had the meeting that mattered most on Sunday night. Let me show you why this moment is so powerful. First, Sunday night slows you down. It pulls you out of the chaos. It gives you space to reflect, review, and reset. You get to ask the questions most busy people forget. What worked last week? What didn't? Where did my time go? What do I want this upcoming week to feel like? Because you're not just filling a calendar, you're building a life. Next, Sunday night brings clarity. It's the time when decisions are made before the chaos arrives. It's where you choose what you will do and what you will not do. And let me tell you, there's power in deciding ahead of time. Power in saying, this is the direction, these are the priorities, this is my commitment. That clarity, it transforms pressure into peace, turns confusion into confidence, and makes a good week a great one. Here's something most people miss. If you wait until Monday morning to plan your week, you're already behind. Urgency will always outrun importance. Demands will always overshadow decisions. But Sunday night, that's your quiet time. That's your protected space. That's when vision finally has room to speak. So here's what I recommend. Block 30 minutes every Sunday night, just for you. Not for entertainment, not for scrolling, but for strategy. Sit down with your planner, look ahead at the days, right, your top 3 goals, block your most valuable time, build in rest, make space for growth, decide what matters and give it a place. And listen, turn it into a ritual. Light a candle, play music, open a notebook. Treat it as something sacred. Because when you honor your planning time, your life will start to mirror that same order. And remember, you don't need a perfect plan, you just need a plan you're willing to follow. And if you return to this practice every Sunday night, week after week, you'll begin to see your life take shape just as you envisioned. Let's be honest. There are 2 versions of each of us, the version that reacts to the week and the version that leads it. And the one that wins, that's the one who keeps their Sunday night appointment. So I leave you with this. Don't start the week until it's finished on paper. Don't wait for the week to dictate your actions. You tell the week who's in charge. Make Sunday night your power hour, and the rest of the week will thank you. Because that meeting with yourself on Sunday, that quiet personal moment, isn't just planning, it's leadership, it's stewardship, it's success in motion. So don't skip the meeting. That's the one that changes everything. Plan with vision, live with intention. Let me say it plainly. The future doesn't belong to the lucky, it belongs to the prepared. And one of the most powerful tools of preparation, a well-planned week. You see, planning isn't just about productivity. It's not about stuffing more into your schedule. It's about stepping back and saying, my life matters too much to leave it to chance. The moment you pick up the pen, the moment you begin shaping your week with intention, you're doing something rare. You're becoming someone who lives with purpose. And let me tell you, intentional living is powerful. They drift into habits. They drift into relationships. They drift into mediocrity. But not you. You've made a decision. You've chosen to lead your life, not just react to it. That's what a plan does. It puts you back in the driver's seat. It says, this is who I'm becoming. This is how I'll invest my time. This is what I'm committed to this week, this month, this year. Because vision without a plan, that's just a wish. And a plan without action, that's just ink on paper. But when you bring vision, planning, and action together, now you're living on purpose. And that's where the transformation happens. That's when you stop surviving your days and start building your destiny. So let me ask you, what if you did this every week? What if you made this your way of life? What if every Sunday night you stepped into stillness, revisited your vision, and planned your week with care? How soon would your health begin to improve? How soon would your relationships deepen? How soon before your goals started becoming reality? Not long, because it doesn't take a lifetime to change your life. It takes a decision and the discipline to plan it 1 week at a time. So I leave you with this. Plan with vision. Live with intention. Let your calendar reflect your values. Let your week reflect your priorities. Let your actions reflect your purpose. Remember, this is your life and you only get one. Don't leave it to chance. Don't wait to find the time. Make the time, use the time, own the time. Because when you plan your week, you're not just managing time, you're shaping who you're becoming. So start today, pick up the pen, open the planner, look ahead with clarity, and lead your life the way it was meant to be led, on purpose, with discipline, with vision. That's how you build a life worth living, 1 week at a time. My work, my life, datism.com. And so we ask you to share 5 memorable moments from your life. And we'd like you to just think about one. What would be the main one that was missed? For example, with my work as a school, the truth is every week is an opportunity, a blank slate filled with potential. But without a plan, that potential slips through your fingers, replaced by chaos, distractions, and frustration. You can keep reacting, letting life push you around, or you can take control, starting right now. Imagine the clarity, the focus, the momentum you'll build when you stop leaving your success to chance and start showing up with a plan. The choice is simple. Will you drift through another week, or will you step up and design it? Because the results you want aren't waiting someday. They're built one intentional week at a time.
Good morning, everyone. Let me ask you something. How many of you have been in a situation that felt like it was too much to handle? Maybe it was a setback, a loss, or a moment where the ground felt like it was crumbling beneath you. Raise your hand if you've been there. Here's the truth everyone has. Life throws curveballs. But today I want to remind you of something that will completely shift how you navigate those moments. Are you ready for it? It's this: trust God. Not just when it's easy. Not just when things are going your way. Trust God in every situation. I know some of you might be thinking, easier said than done, and you're right, trusting isn't always easy, but it's powerful. Trust is the bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be. Think about it when we're in a tough spot. Our minds love to play tricks on us. Fear screams, it's over, doubt whispers, you can't do this, but trust in God says, this isn't your final destination, it's a stepping stone. Let me tell you something, trusting God isn't about pretending the problem doesn't exist. It's not about denial. It's about understanding that there's a bigger picture you might not see yet. Imagine you're holding a puzzle piece in your hand. It's jagged, it's odd-shaped, and it makes no sense on its own. But when you trust the Creator, you know that piece has a purpose in the bigger masterpiece. Now, here's what's critical: trust is an action. It's not passive. It's not sitting back and saying, I hope something happens. Trusting God means taking bold steps forward, even when you can't see the whole staircase. It's about praying and then preparing, believing and then building. Here's a real life truth bomb. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you respond. And when you choose to trust God in the storm, you're saying, I refuse to let this storm sink my ship. Let me share a quick story with you. There was a man who lost his job, his savings, and nearly everything else. He had every reason to give up. But instead, he trusted that God had a plan. He used his time to grow, to learn, to serve others, and to prepare for the opportunities ahead. Months later, a door opened, not just any door, a door that aligned perfectly with his talents, his passion, and his calling. He didn't just recover, he soared higher than ever before. What would have happened if he hadn't trusted? He could have stayed stuck. He could have let fear paralyze him. But trust was his turning point. You have the same choice today. No matter what you're facing, whether it's a challenge in your relationships, your career, your health, or even your faith, you can choose trust. It's a daily decision. Every morning you can wake up and say, I don't have all the answers, but I know the one who does. When you trust God in every situation, something incredible happens. You become unstoppable. Fear loses its grip, worry takes a back seat, and faith becomes your fuel. So today I challenge you to lean into trust. Speak it out loud, walk in it. Remind yourself that even when the path looks uncertain, the one guiding you has never failed. Say it with me, I will trust God in every situation. Louder, feel it. I will trust God in every situation. When you leave here today, walk with that trust. Face the challenges with boldness. Know that your setbacks are setups for your comeback. And remember, the story God is writing for you is so much bigger than the chapter you're in right now. You've got this. Trust Him and watch your life transform. Trust is the bridge between your struggle and your breakthrough. It is the unseen force that carries you over the chasm of uncertainty, fear, and doubt to a place of stability, peace, and triumph. Trust doesn't always come naturally. It requires intentionality. It asks you to let go of control, to release your grip on the things you cannot change, and to surrender them to the one who holds everything in his hands. In life, struggles are inevitable. They appear in various forms: financial troubles, health challenges, relationship conflicts, or even internal battles with self-doubt and fear. When you are in the middle of those struggles, the temptation is to let your emotions take over, to lean into worry, anxiety, and despair. But trust is the antidote to those feelings. Trust shifts your focus away from the problem and toward the promise. When you trust, you are making a conscious decision to believe in something greater than yourself. You are acknowledging that there is a higher power working on your behalf, even when you cannot see the outcome. Trust acts as a stabilizing force in the chaos, grounding you in the assurance that your current struggle is not the end of your story. It gives you the courage to keep going, even when the road ahead feels uncertain. Trust allows you to see beyond the immediate pain or challenge and to hold on to the hope that breakthrough is possible. Consider this: when you stand on one side of a canyon, the distance between where you are and where you want to be can feel overwhelming. The gap is intimidating, the drop below is terrifying, and the other side can feel impossibly far away. But a bridge changes everything. That bridge provides a path, a way to move forward even in the face of fear. Trust operates the same way. It becomes the bridge that connects you to your breakthrough. Without trust, you remain stuck, paralyzed by the enormity of your struggle. But with trust, you take that first step onto the bridge, knowing that each step brings you closer to the other side. Trust doesn't mean you will have all the answers. It doesn't require you to know how every piece will fall into place. In fact, trust thrives in the unknown. It is in the moments of uncertainty that trust becomes most powerful. When you can't see the outcome, but you still choose to believe that God is working on your behalf, that's when trust grows deeper. It is a muscle that strengthens with use. The more you rely on it, the more resilient you become in the face of challenges. Trust transforms your perspective. It takes your focus off the size of your problem and places it on the size of your God. Struggles often come with a sense of isolation. You may feel like you are the only one going through what you are experiencing. You may wonder if anyone truly understands or if there is a way out. But trust reminds you that you are never alone. It reminds you that God is with you, guiding you, even when you can't feel His presence. Trust is the evidence of your faith in action. It says, I don't need to see the whole picture to believe that the picture is good. Breakthroughs don't happen by accident. They require a willingness to push through discomfort, to keep moving even when it feels like progress is slow. Trust is what keeps you moving. It is the internal assurance that every step, no matter how small, is taking you closer to where you are meant to be. Trust doesn't eliminate the struggle, but it changes how you experience it. It shifts your mindset from one of defeat to one of determination. Think about the story of a seed. When a seed is planted, it is buried in darkness. It is surrounded by soil, unable to see the light above. To the outside observer, it may look as though nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, there is growth. The seed is transforming, stretching, and pushing its way upward. That growth is not visible until the seed breaks through the soil. Your struggles are like that soil, and trust is what allows you to keep growing, even when you can't yet see the results. Trust fuels your faith that breakthrough is on its way. Sometimes trust requires patience. It asks you to wait, even when waiting feels uncomfortable. In a world that values instant gratification, waiting can feel like a struggle in itself. But trust understands that timing matters. It recognizes that breakthrough comes at the right time, not necessarily your time. Trust teaches you to be still, to rest in the knowledge that God's timing is perfect. It frees you from the need to rush, to force things to happen, and instead allows you to move with grace and confidence. Trust is also about letting go of the need to control. Control is an illusion that often leads to frustration and disappointment. When you try to control every aspect of your life, you put an immense amount of pressure on yourself. Trust releases that pressure. It invites you to surrender your plans, your fears, and your doubts to the one who sees the bigger picture. Trust doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means you take action with the understanding that the results are in God's hands. This surrender is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. It shows that you are willing to rely on a power greater than yourself. In the midst of a struggle, it can be tempting to focus on what you lack of resources, lack of support, lack of clarity. But trust shifts your focus to what you have. It reminds you that you have the strength to persevere, the resilience to adapt, and the faith to believe in a better outcome. Trust helps you see the opportunities hidden within the obstacles. It opens your eyes to the lessons that struggles often bring. Every challenge has the potential to teach you something valuable, to prepare you for what's ahead. Trust also builds confidence. When you trust God, you begin to see evidence of His faithfulness in your life. You recognize the times He has brought you through past struggles, and that recognition strengthens your belief that He will do it again. Each breakthrough becomes a reminder that trust is worth it, that it leads to growth and transformation. Trust is not a one-time decision, it is a daily choice. It is a commitment to believe, even when circumstances try to shake your faith. It is a declaration that your struggles do not define you, that they are merely a part of your journey. Trust gives you the resilience to face challenges with courage, to keep moving forward, even when the path is unclear. When you choose trust, you align yourself with the truth that God is always working on your behalf. You may not see it immediately, but trust assures you that the work is happening. It reminds you that every struggle has a purpose, every delay has meaning, and every breakthrough is on its way. Trust is the bridge that carries you from where you are to where you are meant to be. It is the connection between your current struggle and your eventual breakthrough. Without it, you remain stuck, but with it, you find the strength to move forward, one step at a time. Faith isn't passive, it's action backed by belief in God's plan. It's easy to talk about faith when things are going well. When life is smooth, it seems like faith is a natural part of the journey. But when the storm clouds gather, when the winds of uncertainty blow, that's when the true power of faith is tested. Real faith is not a static belief, it's a dynamic, living force that compels us to move, to act, and to live as if we believe that God is in control, even when the circumstances suggest otherwise. You see, faith requires movement. It calls us to step out of our comfort zones and into the unknown, trusting that God is leading us even when we can't see the path clearly. The Bible is filled with stories of individuals who had to take bold steps in the face of uncertainty. Consider Abraham. God told him to leave everything he knew, his home, his family, his security, and journey to a land that God would show him. Abraham didn't wait until he had all the details. He acted on the faith that God would fulfill his promises. That kind of faith isn't passive. It doesn't sit back and wait for the answer to come. It takes action, it moves forward, and it trusts that each step is part of a greater plan. When we live by faith, we live with the understanding that our actions are not based on what we can see with our natural eyes, but on the belief that God's plan is unfolding behind the scenes. It is a belief in the unseen, in the things hoped for, even when there is no tangible evidence. But the power of faith isn't in its passivity, it's in the way it moves us. Faith isn't just a feeling or a thought, it's an active decision to trust, even when the world around us says something different. It's a decision to act on what we believe, even when the circumstances seem to contradict our beliefs. Think about Peter walking on water. The disciples were in a boat in the middle of a storm. They saw Jesus walking toward them, and Peter, full of faith, said, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." Jesus called him out, and Peter stepped out of the boat. For a moment, he walked on water. His faith had brought him to a place where he was defying nature itself. But as soon as he took his eyes off Jesus and focused on the wind and the waves, he began to sink. Why? Because faith is only powerful when it is acted upon. When Peter took that first step, his faith was alive, active, and moving him forward. But when he allowed doubt to creep in, when he allowed his circumstances to dictate his faith, he began to sink. Faith calls us to keep our eyes fixed on God, not on the storms around us. The moment we begin to focus on the challenges, the obstacles, and the uncertainties, our faith weakens. But when we keep our focus on God and trust in His plan, faith becomes the foundation upon which we can stand, even in the most turbulent of times. This is the difference between passive belief and active faith. Passive belief sits back and waits for things to change. It says, if God wants me to have it, it will come. But active faith says, I believe God's promise, so I am going to take steps toward it, even if I don't see the full picture yet. Faith requires us to take risks. It's easy to act when the way is clear and the path is obvious. But faith often requires us to step into the unknown, to make decisions without seeing all the details, and to trust that God will provide every step of the way. Faith is not about having a perfect plan, it's about trusting God with the plan, even when we don't understand it. The Bible says without faith, it is impossible to please God, Hebrews 11:6. Why? Because faith is the proof that we believe God is who he says he is, and that he will do what he has promised to do. Faith is an active expression of trust. It says, I believe in the character of God, and because I believe in his character, I will act as if I believe his promises are true. Faith often requires sacrifice. It requires us to let go of our own plans, our own comfort, and our own understanding in order to follow the path God has laid before us. This is where many people falter. We want to hold on to what we know, what feels safe, what we can control. But faith requires us to let go of the illusion of control and step into the unknown, trusting that God will lead us to where we need to be. It's like Abraham again. He had to leave his home, his family, and everything he knew in order to step into God's promise. That wasn't easy. That took action. That took faith. When we take action on our faith, we are not simply waiting for God to do something for us. We are aligning our will with his. We are saying, God, I trust you so much that I am willing to take a step in the direction you are leading me, even if I don't have all the answers. Faith is not about sitting still and waiting for life to happen. It's about stepping out and moving forward, knowing that God is with us, guiding us, and empowering us to do things that we could never do on our own. Let's take a moment to think about the power of a mustard seed. Jesus said that faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. A mustard seed is tiny, yet it holds the potential for great growth. Just a small amount of faith can have a profound impact on our lives. It's not the size of our faith that matters, it's the fact that we are willing to take action on that faith. A tiny seed, when planted, can grow into a mighty tree. Similarly, a small step of faith, when acted upon, can lead to massive breakthroughs. The power of faith is not in how much faith we have, but in our willingness to act on the faith we have, no matter how small it seems. Faith also teaches us perseverance. When things don't happen immediately, when the results don't come as quickly as we hope, faith keeps us moving forward. It says, I believe that God will bring his promises to pass in his timing, not mine. This kind of faith is relentless. It doesn't give up when faced with obstacles. It doesn't throw in the towel when things get difficult. Instead, it pushes forward, knowing that every step taken in faith brings us closer to the fulfillment of God's plan for our lives. Real faith is not about avoiding difficulties. It's about trusting God through them. It's about moving forward, even when the path seems unclear, knowing that each step of faith is a step towards something greater. When we take action on our faith, we are living as if we believe that God is who he says he is and that he will do what he has promised to do. We are not waiting for the storm to pass. We are trusting that God will lead us through the storm, stronger and more confident than before. Faith, when acted upon, has the power to transform our circumstances. It doesn't always change the situation immediately, but it changes how we see the situation. It shifts our perspective from one of fear and doubt to one of hope and trust. And when we move forward in that faith, we begin to see God's plan unfold before us. Faith isn't passive. It's the action that fuels the promise, the movement that activates the breakthrough. It's the living, breathing force that compels us to step out of the boat, walk on water, and move forward, even when the waves are high and the winds are fierce. You can't control the storm, but you can control how you respond to it. Life is full of storms. They come in all shapes and sizes: personal challenges, financial difficulties, health crises, relationship struggles, or internal battles with fear, anxiety, and doubt. Some storms seem to appear without warning, while others brew for months or even years. The reality is we all face these storms. What truly defines us is not the storm itself, but how we choose to respond to it. While we can't control the external circumstances or the difficulties that arise in life, we have the power to control how we navigate through them. When a storm hits, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, helpless, and out of control. The wind howls, the rain pours down, and the thunder crashes around us, shaking us to our core. It's in these moments that our true character is revealed. The question isn't whether the storm will come, the question is how we will respond when it does. Will we let the storm defeat us, or will we stand firm, grounded in the knowledge that we have the ability to endure and overcome? The key to surviving any storm is learning to respond, not react. Reaction is driven by emotion and fear. When we react, we allow ourselves to be swept away by the intensity of the moment, responding impulsively, often in ways that are not helpful or productive. But response is different. A response is thoughtful, deliberate, and based on a deeper understanding of who we are and what we believe. It is a choice. We can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we handle what happens. Our response can either strengthen us or weaken us. Think about the story of Jesus and his disciples on the stormy sea. They were crossing a lake when a fierce storm suddenly arose. The waves were crashing against the boat, and the disciples were terrified, convinced that they were about to perish. Meanwhile, Jesus was asleep in the back of the boat. When the disciples woke him, they were frantic, asking, "Lord, don't you care that we're going to drown?" Jesus responded by calming the storm. But he also asked them, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" This story is not just about Jesus calming the storm, it's about how the disciples responded to the storm. In the midst of the chaos, they allowed fear and panic to take over. They were focused on the storm, not on the fact that Jesus, the Son of God, was right there with them. They had forgotten who they were with, and that lack of perspective led to their fear. Jesus, on the other hand, wasn't rattled by the storm. He was calm, peaceful, and confident in God's control over all circumstances. The difference between the disciples' response and Jesus' response highlights the power of perspective. Jesus didn't ignore the storm, but he wasn't afraid of it. His peace came from knowing that God was in control and that nothing was beyond his power. This is the lesson we must learn when we face storms in our own lives. The storm may be real, the danger may be real, but how we respond to it determines our outcome. It's not the storm itself that has the power to destroy us, it's our response to it. Do we allow the storm to overwhelm us? Or do we choose to trust that God is bigger than any challenge we face? One of the greatest mistakes people make when facing a storm is to try to control everything around them. We think that if we just fix this or that, we can prevent the storm from getting worse. We try to manipulate the situation, control the people involved, or change the course of events. But the reality is that we cannot control the storm. The winds will blow, the rain will fall, and sometimes the boat will rock. What we can control, however, is how we respond to the storm. When we shift our focus from trying to control the uncontrollable to managing our internal response, we free ourselves from the burden of trying to dictate the outcome. Instead of panicking, we can choose to remain calm, knowing that we have the power to weather the storm. The storm may be powerful, but it does not have the power to control our response unless we allow it to. One of the most powerful ways we can respond to a storm is by remaining anchored in our faith. Faith is not just something we turn to when things are easy, it is the foundation that holds us steady when the winds of life blow hardest. In the midst of the storm, our faith reminds us that we are not alone. It assures us that God is with us and that He is our refuge and strength. Psalm 46:1 says, "God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble." This verse doesn't promise that we will be free from storms, but it assures us that when trouble comes, God is there to help us navigate through it. Faith allows us to take control of our response. It helps us to see the storm through a different lens, one where we trust that God has a purpose in every season. When we face difficulties, faith enables us to say, "I may not understand why this is happening, but I know that God is in control and He will work all things for my good." This perspective shifts us from a place of fear to a place of peace, knowing that the storm, though powerful, is not greater than the one who holds the universe in his hands. Another way to respond effectively in the storm is by staying grounded in gratitude. In the midst of chaos, it can be difficult to find things to be thankful for. We may feel overwhelmed, discouraged, or even hopeless. But gratitude shifts our focus from the problem to the provision. It allows us to remember the blessings we still have, even in the hardest of times. When we choose to focus on what we are grateful for, we begin to shift our energy from a place of lack to a place of abundance. Gratitude also reminds us that no storm lasts forever. Every storm has a season. It may seem unrelenting in the moment, but eventually the winds will calm and the sun will shine again. Gratitude helps us to endure the storm with the knowledge that this too shall pass. We may not know when or how, but we know that the storm will eventually give way to brighter days. When we respond to storms with faith and gratitude, we build resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity, to rise stronger from life's challenges. It is not about avoiding storms, but about developing the strength to weather them with grace. Every storm we face is an opportunity to strengthen our resilience, to build our ability to handle life's challenges with confidence and trust in God's plan. The more we face and respond to life's storms, the more we learn how to stand firm in the face of adversity, knowing that we are not defined by the storm, but by how we choose to respond to it. At the end of the day, it is not the storm that shapes our future, but our response to it. We cannot control the external forces that come our way, but we can control how we choose to respond. By choosing faith over fear, gratitude over complaint, and trust over worry, we position ourselves to not only survive the storm, but to emerge from it stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Life's storms will come, but how we respond will determine whether we are swept away by them or whether we rise above them. God's timing is always perfect, even when we can't see it. In our fast-paced world, we are conditioned to expect immediate results. We want things to happen quickly, and we want things to go according to our plan. When life doesn't unfold on our timeline, it can be frustrating and even discouraging. We often find ourselves asking, why is this taking so long, or why isn't this happening the way I envisioned it? But the reality is that God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with our expectations. The thing about time is that we as human beings are bound by it. We operate on a schedule and we measure progress by the passing of days, weeks, and months. We have deadlines, goals, and benchmarks. However, God exists outside of time. He is not limited by the constraints we experience. He sees the beginning from the end, and his understanding of what's best for us is far beyond what we can comprehend in the moment. We may not always understand the reasons behind the delays or the waiting periods, but we can trust that God's timing is always aligned with his perfect plan for our lives. Consider the story of Abraham and Sarah. God promised Abraham that he would become the father of many nations. He was told that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. But Abraham and Sarah were old, and Sarah had been barren her entire life. In their minds, the promise seemed impossible. The years passed, and still no child came. Eventually, they grew impatient, and in an attempt to fulfill God's promise on their own, they took matters into their own hands. Sarah suggested that Abraham have a child with her maidservant Hagar, and so Ishmael was born. While God still blessed Ishmael, he reaffirmed his promise to Abraham and Sarah, telling them that Sarah would bear a son, Isaac, in his perfect time. Abraham and Sarah's story is a powerful reminder that when we take matters into our own hands, we often delay the fulfillment of God's promises. Their impatience and doubt led them to a solution that was outside of God's plan. But even in that moment of human error, God's timing remained intact. The birth of Isaac came when it seemed impossible, when Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was 90. It was then that the promise was fulfilled in a way that only God could have orchestrated. This story shows us that God's timing is not bound by our limitations, and his plans are never delayed. Even in moments of waiting, he is working behind the scenes, preparing everything in the perfect moment. Another example is the story of Joseph. Joseph, the favorite son of Jacob, was betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery. He spent years in Egypt, first as a servant in Potiphar's house, and then in prison, enduring hardship and isolation. Despite the challenges, Joseph's faith remained strong. But during all this time, God was preparing him for a higher purpose. Eventually, Joseph was elevated to a position of power in Egypt, second only to Pharaoh, and was able to save his family and an entire nation from famine. Looking back, Joseph could see how every step of his journey led to that moment. In Genesis 50:20, Joseph tells his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph's story is a testament to how God's timing works in ways we can't always understand at the time, but it all leads to a greater purpose. There are also countless examples throughout the Bible of people waiting for God's perfect timing. Think of the Israelites waiting in the wilderness for 40 years before entering the Promised Land. They had to endure hardship, disappointment, and frustration. But through it all, God was teaching them, refining them, and preparing them for what lay ahead. Even when the road seemed long, God was still present, still guiding them, and still fulfilling his promises. Our impatience and desire for immediate results can often cloud our understanding of God's timing. We may think that something should happen right away or that we should be further along in our journey by now. But God is not bound by our expectations. He is working in ways we cannot see, aligning circumstances, people, and opportunities in his time. Sometimes the delay is not a sign that God has forgotten us, but rather a sign that he is working to bring everything together at the perfect moment. There are also times when we may question God's timing because it doesn't align with our understanding of what's best for us. We may believe that we are ready for something, but God in his infinite wisdom knows that we are not. There are lessons that need to be learned, character that needs to be developed, and experiences that need to be had before we can step into the next phase of our lives. If we were to receive what we think we want too soon, it might not be the blessing we expect. It might even be something that we are not ready to handle, but in his perfect timing, God knows exactly when to bring us to the place where we are ready to receive the blessing he has for us. In moments of waiting, it can be difficult to trust that God is still in control. The longer we wait, the more we may feel discouraged, as if our prayers are going unanswered or our dreams are slipping away. But God's delays are not denials. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. It just means that the timing is not right. While we wait, God is preparing us, molding us, and setting things into motion that we cannot see. We may not understand it now, but we can trust that he is working behind the scenes. Sometimes the most challenging part of waiting is the uncertainty. We don't know when our prayers will be answered or when our desires will be fulfilled. But this is where faith comes in. Faith is the assurance that even when we can't see it, God is still at work. It is the confidence that God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't make sense to us. Faith is what keeps us going when the waiting feels unbearable, and it is what sustains us when we are unsure of the next step. In the midst of waiting, we must remember that God is not distant or unaware of our struggles. He sees our pain, he understands our frustration, and he knows the desires of our hearts. And though the waiting may feel long, we can take comfort in knowing that he is right there with us. He has not abandoned us. His timing may not always align with our timing, but it is always aligned with his perfect plan for our lives. As we wait, we are called to trust. Trust that God knows what he is doing. Trust that he is working things out for our good. Trust that his timing will be worth the wait. And trust that when the moment comes, we will be ready. His timing is perfect because he is perfect. And in that trust, we find peace, knowing that he is always at work and that everything will come together exactly as it should in his time. When we face challenges in life, one of the most powerful tools we can use to overcome them is prayer. Prayer is not just a way to ask God for help, it is a way to build a deeper relationship with him, to align our hearts with his will, and to invite his strength into our circumstances. When we encounter struggles, it can be easy to focus on the size of the problem, to let fear and worry consume us. But prayer allows us to shift our focus from the problem to the solution, from our limited perspective to God's limitless power. It is in prayer that we find peace, guidance, and the strength to move forward, even when the path ahead seems uncertain. The power of prayer is not in the words we say, but in the faith behind those words. God is not looking for perfect prayers or eloquent speeches. He is looking for sincerity, humility, and trust. When we pray, we are acknowledging our dependence on him, recognizing that we cannot do everything on our own. Prayer is an act of surrender, a willingness to let go of our need for control and allow God to take charge. It is in this surrender that we open ourselves to his wisdom, his strength, and his peace. One of the most powerful aspects of prayer is its ability to provide clarity. When we face difficult decisions or situations, our minds can become clouded with confusion, doubt, and fear. We may feel overwhelmed by the many choices before us or unsure of what direction to take. In these moments, prayer allows us to step back, quiet our hearts, and listen for God's voice. It gives us the space to hear His guidance, to receive His direction, and to find the peace that surpasses understanding. Often, the answers to our questions don't come in an immediate rush of words, but in a quiet sense of peace that settles over us. Through prayer, God opens our eyes to see the situation from His perspective, and in doing so, He leads us toward the best path forward. In moments of pain or suffering, prayer also gives us a way to express our deepest emotions. Sometimes we are faced with situations that leave us feeling helpless, broken, or lost. In these times, it can be difficult to find the words to explain how we feel or what we need. But prayer doesn't require us to have all the answers or to put on a facade of strength. It is in our raw, unfiltered moments of vulnerability that God meets us with His comfort and love. The Bible tells us that the Holy Spirit intercedes for us when we don't know what to pray, Romans 8:26. When our hearts are too heavy for words, God knows what we need and meets us in our pain. Prayer becomes a refuge in those moments of grief, fear, or confusion, offering a space for us to pour out our hearts to God and trust that He will hold us through it all. In addition to providing clarity and comfort, prayer also strengthens our faith. When we pray, we are reminded of God's faithfulness and His past work in our lives. We remember the times He has come through for us, even when it seemed impossible. Each prayer answered, each step of guidance received, builds our trust in Him and strengthens our belief in His ability to handle our current struggles. Even when it feels like our prayers are not being answered immediately, we can trust that God is at work behind the scenes, orchestrating things in His perfect timing. Prayer reminds us that God is always present, always listening, and always working for our good, even when we don't see it. Another important aspect of prayer is its ability to align our will with God's will. It is easy to pray for what we want, to present our requests and desires to God, but true prayer also involves surrendering our will to His. It is not about trying to bend God to our desires, but about submitting ourselves to His plans. Jesus modeled this in the Garden of Gethsemane when He prayed, "Not my will, but yours be done," Luke 22:42. Even though Jesus knew the great suffering He would face, He chose to surrender His will to the Father. This is the heart of true prayer, not just asking for what we want, but seeking God's will and trusting that His plan is always better than our own. As we pray, we align our hearts with His and we become more attuned to His voice, His desires, and His timing. Prayer transforms our hearts, helping us to see beyond our own limited understanding and to embrace God's greater purpose for our lives. In times of uncertainty, prayer is also a powerful tool for finding peace. The Bible encourages us to bring our anxieties to God in prayer, knowing that He will give us peace that transcends our understanding, Philippians 4:6-7. When we are overwhelmed by worry, fear, or doubt, prayer serves as a reminder that we don't have to carry those burdens on our own. We can cast our anxieties on God, knowing that He cares for us and will give us the strength to face whatever comes our way. Through prayer, we release our grip on the things we cannot control and place them in the hands of the One who is sovereign over all. This act of surrender brings a deep sense of peace, knowing that we are not alone in our struggles and that God is in control of the outcome. Prayer also deepens our sense of gratitude. It is easy to get caught up in the challenges and struggles of life and forget to be thankful for the blessings we have. But when we pray, we are reminded of the goodness of God and the countless ways He has been faithful to us. Prayer allows us to reflect on the many gifts we have been given: the love of family and friends, the provision we receive, the strength to face each day, and the hope of God's promises. As we take time to thank God for His blessings, we cultivate an attitude of gratitude that helps us to see beyond our problems and focus on the abundance in our lives. Gratitude, cultivated through prayer, shifts our perspective and helps us to approach life with a heart of thankfulness, even in the midst of difficulty. Furthermore, prayer is a tool that unites us with others. When we pray for others, we join in their burdens and partner with them in seeking God's intervention in their lives. Prayer connects us to the global body of Christ as we lift up the needs of others and intercede on their behalf. It is a reminder that we are not isolated in our struggles, but that we are part of a larger community of believers who support and encourage one another through prayer. When we pray for others, we are also reminded of the power of God to change lives and transform situations. Prayer is not just a personal act, it is a communal one, bringing us together in faith and unity. Ultimately, prayer is an invitation into a deeper relationship with God. It is not just a ritual or a routine, it is a conversation with the Creator of the universe. Through prayer, we experience God's presence in a tangible way, and we grow in our understanding of His love, His grace, and His faithfulness. It is through prayer that we draw closer to God, align ourselves with His will, and find the strength, peace, and guidance we need to navigate life's challenges. Prayer is not just a way to ask for help, it is a way to connect with the heart of God and experience His transformative power in our lives.